1 million robots by 2030. He said that.
By
Maybe.
2030?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I have in my models, 1 million robots in 2030.
Yeah.
And total produced by then of 1.5 million in total. And that gets you to a $6 trillion market value on Optimus using a PE of 100.
2030.
Yeah. So let's talk about some numbers. So if you have a robot that makes $25,000 a year in profit, and that right now would not be a stretch because we think these robots can actually generate annual revenue, let's say, of $100,000 or $90,000. No problem.
Yeah.
And actually, I've said too, as robots get more capable, they become more valuable. They could actually have more revenue than that. If a robot is able to work 3 shifts at the pace of a human, it's probably worth more than $100,000 per year in revenue. But let's just stick with 100,000 for now, okay? If it makes 25,000, it's only 25% profit margin, net profit margin, okay, which I think is conservative. And if you applied only a PE multiple of 40 to that, for every 1 million robots, you get $1 trillion of market value creation, right? Effectively out of thin air. You're putting something into the world that's never been there before. 1 million of them creates $1 trillion of value. Elon yesterday was talking about 10 million robots. That's 10 trillion. 100 million robots, potentially making 100 million a year. That is 100 trillion of market value
per year.
Per year. And 100 million actually of robots isn't that much in context of an 8 billion or so person planet. You get to 1 billion robots a year, and again, he mentioned that yesterday. That's $1 quadrillion of value generated every year in market value. Now, the idea of Tesla being a 1 quadrillion company sounds insane. I totally agree. But he said that Optimus is effectively a infinite money glitch. And I think this is what he's referring to. When he looks at numbers like this, you know, they speak for themselves. All right. Now, of course, as you put out that many robots, you're not going to be making $25,000 a year. You're going to actually be driving the cost of making these and the cost of everything else down. So let's say it's only, 20% of that. Then 1 billion robots generates 5 trillion in revenue and 200 trillion of market value.
200 trillion.
Right.
Okay.
Now, 5 trillion in revenue, that's, on a $100 trillion economy, that's only 5%. That's not 10xing the economy yet. Now, of course, you put these bots into the world and they go do work and so on. So it's not just the revenue that Tesla gets that increases GDP, it's the work that the bots do.
Yeah.
But even so, we're still just scratching the surface on its GDP impact.
So what you're doing is you're backtracking statements he's made. And we know that when he's made these statements, he's calculated it. He's figured it out. He's done all this that you're doing. The economy, the size of that, what the impact would be, how many bots, and that's why he comes up with these numbers. He doesn't come up with them out of thin air.
No.
I asked him the question, like, how did you know the 6 billion miles for FSD driven is what's going to be required before you get worldwide regulatory approval? And he said, well, I kind of like estimate, and I just want to be in the right order of magnitude. That's the most important to him. And so like you do the same thing. You're willing to say that it's okay, fine, I'll do 20% of that, but it's still in the same order of magnitude and it's still head scratching. It's still.
Yeah, I thought the question you asked of Elon yesterday actually was very insightful, and thank you for asking that. How did he come up with that 6 billion mile number? Because it seems to be pretty much spot on or in the ballpark, right? We're there now, and here we are with FSD.
6 billion is what it is today.
Now, he said, well, it was actually 10 billion kilometers.
Yes.
Right? And so he said, is it 1 billion kilometers? Is that enough? And he said, no, it didn't feel like that was going to be enough. Is it 10 billion kilometers? Or is it 100? And he said, no, 100, that's too much. We don't need that much. We should be good with 10.
Yeah.
And that's how we arrived at that number, which turns out to be pretty much spot on. Right?
And that's what you're doing right now.
That's what we're trying to do here is where are we with this, right?
There's several metrics that he shared. The economy, the number of bots per, and then that's where you're piecing together, what does that mean? Is that right? Because otherwise, right?
Yeah.
You figured out you've taken what he said and you're like, bring it down.
Trying to do something similar with this. Yeah. And again, I look at a planet, let's say, of 8 billion people. And Elon mentioned yesterday, every person on the planet is going to want a robot.
He says that
right?
all the time. Yeah.
We already have 8.5 billion cell phones. And he thinks that this is going to be the product that everybody's going to want to have. And of course it makes sense. Who wouldn't want a robot that can do things for us? It's a no-brainer. Everybody on the world's going to want one.
I want to just add that I think it's confusing when he says everybody will want a humanoid robot. I think that he's also referred to C-3POs, but he also refers to R2-D2s. He talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be multiple different robot form factors.
Sure.
And I think in that scenario, absolutely, there's going to be 1 billion of them. Like, half of them will be R2-D2, so whatever that means. Like, not a humanoid per se, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like cell phones. Like, you have a phone, you'll have another thing that is more AI, bot-like, that can actually do things for you. Doesn't have to necessarily be all just humanoids.
Yeah, the thing that's obvious to me is kid-sized robots. My kids would like to interact with a robot that's their size.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really powerful, really meaningful for them. But no doubt there'll be other form factors, right? There might be lots of wheels and different things. I think that's obvious. But the other thing that actually that Elon said yesterday was, while every individual is going to want one on the planet, so call it 8 billion, we're going to, behind the scenes in industrial, we need another 3 to 5 robots per person to build everything. Right? So he's talking about
multi-billion,
right?
8 times 2.
Yeah, 16, even more. He's talked about 4 times the human population of bots ultimately.
Yeah.
And again, you get into the quadrillions. It's crazy to start talking about quadrillions, right? And of course, at that point, what does money even mean? Because everything is just produced in abundance. So naturally, you're not going to have, highly unlikely, a company that's a quadrillion-dollar market value.
It's not going to happen, yeah.
Right? We don't need that in order to be successful with Tesla.
So why don't we bring it back to reality, a little bit reality. So what's going to happen next year, 2026, in terms of bot production and market cap, and did your forecast change?
Well, let's just go through the forecast real quick. So I have at the end of 2026 a total bots deployed of 610, right? That seems like an incredibly low number at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, what was his statement about when his bot's going to be start produced? Or did he say 1,000 run rate? What did he say?
Yeah, I don't remember specifically from yesterday, but this was, from comments made earlier this year.
Yeah.
Right. And then I have 2027, only 5,610 bots deployed.
Yeah.
These seem like crazy low numbers.
The numbers he said yesterday was 1 million unit run rate at Fremont.
No, that's the capacity of the line, not the run rate. Yeah. That's how much the line can produce in terms of annual capacity, but it doesn't tell us how many bots will be produced on that line, next year or the year after.
But anyways, so 1 million at Fremont, 10 million at Texas, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean what's going to happen next year, 2 years, 5 years from now. Okay.
Let's be conservative and say they build a 1 million unit line next year in Fremont, and let's say it takes them 2 years to ramp it. So we're into 2028. My 2028 number is 150,000 robots produced.
So it's likely to be, that's going to be low.
I think so. And then 2029, I have 400,000 robots produced. So I think these are incredibly conservative numbers.
I'd still stick with those, but are you thinking, based on what you heard him say, he is now going to ramp that up bigger than that?
I think so.
So wait. The number he's repeated multiple times last several months is 1 million robots by 2030. He said that.
By 2030? Yeah, and that's what I have in my models, 1 million robots in 2030.
Yeah.
And total produced by then of 1.5 million in total. And that gets you to a $6 trillion market value on Optimus using a PE of 100.
2030.
Yeah.
Okay. And then anything he said yesterday make you think that that's actually going to accelerate it?
It sounds like it. He talks about this being the fastest ramp ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So when he said this is the fastest ramp of any product ever, like you might need to find out the research. Is it cell phones?
Cell phones ramp pretty fast. On a unit basis, cell phones ramp faster than this. So if he's talking about units, then this ramp is too slow that I have modeled here. And by 2035, I've been making 75 million, and total bots produced by then of 171 million.
I think that could be it, though, right? It could be like it's not the fastest ramp in the first 5 years. Yeah. It's the fastest ramp by, like, if you're talking 10 years, it's all of a sudden like this,
If you get into the hundreds of millions of bots produced, and again, he mentioned yesterday about getting into 1 billion bots produced a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the time frames could still be a little bit stretched here, and that's why I'm trying to stay conservative with my model. I don't need to be too aggressive because in 2035 I have a market value on the bots of $130 trillion. That sounds like an insane, crazy number sitting here today. But again, I just follow the math, and that's using a PE of 50 and a bot making $42 a day in profit, which is not a big number.
What did you say your market cap's again for 2030?
2030 for bots is about 6 trillion.
6 trillion, which is what, 3 times what it is today?
That's right.
Okay, and then that's 2030 with 1 million.
And then, by the way, the delta the next year, 2031, the market cap goes to 18.6 trillion.
That's
just with the extra production of bots by then.
Yeah.
Making 5 million in that year.
Okay. So you're not going to change your forecast, though, right?
Not right now. I think it remains to be seen. I would like to see sort of the progress towards actually making bots and having them start come off the factory floor.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still too many unknowns about the usefulness of bots at this point. Right? We see them on stage dancing, and that's really cool. Beautiful fluid motion. That's fantastic. But we need to actually see the bots working, right? And get some understanding of the metrics around that before we can really start to build this. But this is a 10-year model. It's happening at some point in this 10-year time frame in a very large way.
Okay. And then what's the current statement he made about when the bot is Gen 3 is going to be revealed? Still in,
I believe it was first quarter and maybe end of first quarter,
okay.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yep.
Now that hasn't changed, right?
Right.
We saw the hand. The hand was at the shareholder meeting, but he said that that's a Gen 2 hand.
Yeah.
The bots were Gen 2. So they're not going to share what it looks like.
No, not yet. And I wouldn't want them to.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a competitive scene in terms of the bot players. Elon again mentioned yesterday that I think he said there were 3 components, right? And the one that all the other bot makers don't have is Tesla's manufacturing ability. And so even if these other companies have a great bot, they're not going to be able to manufacture at the numbers that we're talking about here.
I mean, you and I have talked this about a lot, but the audience and so many of our friends, they still so concerned about competition. Oh, the Chinese, figure. Oh, that's almost like it's a superficial thing. Like, we want to be first. We want to do the best. What matters is, it doesn't, like, you agree, right? Let's say that there's 2 companies that can do exactly the same number of bots. They will not compete with each other. Let's say by 2030, this Tesla has 1 million robots.
Yeah.
Another company has 1 million robots. 5 other companies have 1 million robots. Doesn't mean they can't sell it. They can't make the money.
That's right.
And then they probably won't butt heads with each other, like competing. Oh, Pepsi will choose this one versus that one, and then all of a sudden Coke won't choose you instead. Like, you probably won't do that, like, until, well, I don't know. My guess is like 30 million. I don't know.
These companies are going to be supply constrained for years, and we're going to have a dynamic where, for example, let's say, just to pick a random thing, Tesla does a deal with Coca-Cola and supplies Coca-Cola with robots. That's going to force Pepsi to respond, because if they don't, now Coca-Cola has a massive economic advantage over their competition. So you almost need multiple bot manufacturers, right? Or if Pepsi's smart, they would also try to do a deal with Tesla. And I've said this years ago: the CEOs of these companies should be calling Elon now and getting their place in line.
Well, we know they are, though, because I've spoken to several CEOs of bot companies, and they told me that every Fortune 50, every Fortune 100 has already called them. This was a year ago, too. So there's no doubt. Yeah. I mean, you're right. If there is a doubt, they should be. They're dumb.
And if I was the CEO of those companies, I'd be trying to get bots in my facilities as training.
Right now.
Right. Yeah.